How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Corey Bosmer, host of Football Kentucky DBA on Twitter and Facebook. And today's guest is current head football coach of Mercer County and UK legend, not Mr., but just Craig Yeast. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for being a guest. So what brought you into becoming the head coach at Mercer? Now, a lot of people, when I put it out there that we would be chatting for too long, a lot of people were surprised that you were at Mercer. A lot of people didn't even know. A good amount of people still thought you were at Kentucky Wesleyan. What led to your transition from leaving college and going to Mercer County?
Well, first of all, I'm from Harrodsburg, and the county of Mercer, and football is kind of like one of those things that when I was in high school, it was an avenue for me to go to University of Kentucky and get my education, play college football. It was an avenue to play professional football and get drafted by the Bengals, start my family. And then it's been an avenue that's taken me to New York, to California, to Ohio, to Indiana, back to Kentucky.
Right.
And now officially back home. And really, it really came down to the athletic director, Donald Smith, giving me a call. And we had a long conversation. Obviously, he's my first cousin. And we just kind of had a long talk and talked about a lot of different things. And I spoke with my wife and then had a meeting with the athletic director, principal, and the superintendent. And they offered me the job. And I think what people don't understand is I've spent a lot of time, I love Kentucky. I love Harrisburg.
Right.
And my mother has not been doing very well in her health over the years. And the good Lord just put this opportunity in front of me. And it was extremely difficult for me to say no, knowing that my mother has not been doing great with her health. So the good Lord brought me back home, and I'm happier now than I think I've ever been in my whole life in terms of being a football coach because I'm home. My mother has been in the hospital for basically the whole month of December. She's still in the hospital, and sometimes you just listen to the good Lord, and if you just follow and heed His advice, you'll make the right decision. And that's how I really ended up back home. I came home because football was the avenue, but I came home because of my mother.
Now, I want to touch base. I want to compare what you just talked about with the unfortunates of your mother. I want to compare it real quick to Satterfield. The reason why Satterfield was trying to go to South Carolina was to be closer to his father. And at the time, people realized that. Case in point yourself, at the end of the day, people don't realize no matter your age, you're still a child. You're still somebody's child.
Correct.
And you ultimately always want to be there with your parents. So like you said, it's a blessing that you can be there for your mother as much as you can be and still at the same time do what you like. And that's coaching football.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
It doesn't get any better than that.
I mean, it is, it really, truly is. So with you saying, you said the AD is your first cousin.
Uh-huh.
Now, although you know him, does it make the transition easier, him being your first cousin, or does it make it harder because the old cliche, they always say, don't do business with family?
Well, I think it's kind of it's a catch-22, really, to be honest with you. The transition for me has been great. And I don't think it's just because of him being the athletic director, being my first cousin. I think it's really more that I came back home and I know most everybody. A lot of the kids, they Googling, trying to figure out who I am because they weren't quite sure. But, everybody else, their parents, the school administration, the teachers in the school buildings, like I know a lot of those folks. So that transition was very easy and very smooth. And I don't think that it had any kind of negative effect having Coach Smith being my first cousin and athletic director.
Right. Now, with this going on your second season, we were chatting before we got started. You're saying this is your actual first official off season.
Yes.
So how hard was that transition, jumping straight from college to high school and not really having that much of an off season your first year?
Well, first, to me, football is football. I mean,
right.
Small college football, where I coached for 8 years, and high school football, it's not exactly that far off. I mean, you're dealing with 14 to 18-year-olds as opposed to 18 to 22-year-olds that don't have their mothers and fathers there. So
right.
It's really kind of a catch-22 in terms of, is it harder? Is it easier? It's really the same. For me, coaching ball is coaching ball. I think that the biggest issue that we had at Mercer County is we just need to really focus on our mental and physical toughness. And coming in late, there's not a lot that you can do about the physical toughness and getting them bigger and stronger in the weight room. But we really focused this year. I told my coaching staff many times, I'm excited about this football season, talking about, last year, the first season,
right.
But I am extremely, and at that time, more excited now, extremely excited about the off season, because this is where we can really take our young men to another level in terms of, we built our program on faith, family, and fundamentals. And the culture of our team is toughness, discipline, attitude, and hard work. So this whole off season is now giving us a chance to really, really focus on the culture of our program in terms of the toughness, the discipline, the attitude, and the hard work. Getting up, we got a lot of our, we got about 50 young men coming back on our roster, and we got about 44 of them in first period weights. So get up in the morning, get on the line at 45 minutes before school starts, and let's get that work in all the way up through first period. And then we have the faith part, the family part. Now we're working on all the fundamentals. And that's where the tough discipline, attitude, hard work in the off season. So really excited about where we are right now in the direction that our program's going. Our young men in our program are extremely excited. Our coaches are excited, and our parents are excited, which is, it's all trending in the right direction right now. And that's what we love down here at Mercer County.
I think you got somebody behind you that wants a little bit of a spotlight time. I think, is that a golden retriever you got?
I got a golden doodle and a Chihuahua. And they're ringing a bell because they're trying to get me to let them outside.
I got 2 Chihuahuas myself, so I know all about them.
Yeah.
I just kept seeing your dogs back there poking their heads up, looking to see what you were doing. Yeah.
You can see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Champ is our Chihuahua. He's about 15, so he's an old man right now. And Jet's our golden doodle, he's 5, and he's very curious and wants to know and thinks he's going to miss something. So he's in the middle of everything if he can be, like a little kid.
How important to you as a high school coach for not only your success, but the success of your the children that you watch over? How important to you is support from the parents of your players?
I think that is the most important aspect of building a program in high school. If your parents are against you and they're not for you, they're not going to bring their kids. They're not going to show up on time.
Right.
Their kids are going to quit. Their kids are going to complain. So I just think it's really important to have the parents bought in as well, maybe even just as much or more as their children, because it really makes a difference. I'm a firm believer that it does take a village to raise a child. And I've said since I've gotten here, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to push your child further than he's ever been pushed before. And then when he thinks he can't go any further, I'm going to probably push him just a little bit more.
Right.
But on the other end, I also say that, hey, your child is your child. And when he's in my care, I'm going to do everything I can to take care of him. It's my job to be the help and the support in helping you continuing to raise your child, but it's not my job to actually raise your child.
Yes, that last part was that's very fitting and very truthful. A lot of times that really resonates with youth sports, especially youth football. A lot of parents, if you notice, especially a man like you in your position, you notice how much more parents put that responsibility on the coaches in the younger divisions of football than they do in the older ones. That's definitely a good point. So I want to talk to you about your decision to go to UK as a player. What led to that, and how did that come about?
Well, all right. Rick Smith at the time was the DB's coach, and I think Joker Phillips was the wide receiver coach at the time, and they did a really, really good job of recruiting me throughout the years. Now, I grew up, and my entire family, except for maybe two people, were University of Louisville fans. Like, there's only maybe a couple family members in my family that has grown over the years now, but when I was growing up, there weren't very many. So coming out of high school, my junior year, going in my senior year, I went to Howard Snellenberger's football camp with kids from all over, full week camp, full contact camp, and Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, California, they were from everywhere. And one of my friends from Harrisburg High School with me, we went there, and, we talking to some guys, and they figured out that we were from little old Harrisburg, and they'd never heard of it. And we only had 30 people on our team, and they laughed at us. And we didn't take too kindly to that. So my buddy and I went to that camp, and as we competed in that camp, we dominated the camp from little old Harrisburg, and we told everybody about it. Well, by the end of the week, Howard Snellenberger and his wide receiver coach and his DB coach had offered me a scholarship. And when that season was over, my senior year, Howard Snellenberger, that was the year he left and went to Oklahoma. Ron Cooper came in at the University of Louisville, and he immediately looked at my profile, took my scholarship off the table, and then about a couple of weeks later, after some people raised some, he came to my school and offered me a preferred walk-on. Well, by that time...
Wow, that's crazy.
This is the truth. By that time, there were two schools. And that year, my senior year, was the first year Kentucky and Louisville had ever played or had played in quite some time. I was at that game. Kentucky won that game. And after Ron Cooper took my scholarship off the table and offered me a preferred walk-on, the University of Tennessee and the University of Kentucky were the only two institutions that Louisville played on a yearly basis at that time. And I was raised by my mother having she was 16, but I was kind of raised by my grandparents. And my grandfather used to always tell me, he said, my boys go to Kentucky schools. We don't go out of state. If you go out of state, you get lost in the shuffle like everybody else. Go to Kentucky school, you're a Kentucky kid, all the good stuff. And well, I definitely wasn't going to Tennessee, and I was being highly recruited also by Kentucky, and I really like Rick Smith, and I like Joker Phillips, and I was a really big fan of Bill Curry at the time. So I chose the University of Kentucky because I thought that was the best fit for me, and also it was going to give me the opportunity to prove to Ron Cooper that he made a grave mistake. So,
well, we not to discredit anything as Ron Cooper the person, because I'm sure he's a great person, but we see how his luck ended up, unfortunately, going for him at U of L. So, looking back, you could kind of look at that as a blessing in disguise for you.
Correct. I just, the thing that really bothered me throughout that whole process, being a young kid, an 18-year-old, was how can you come in and take over a program and not honor the scholarship that Howard Schnellenberger offered me? If Howard Schnellenberger offered me a scholarship, then why wouldn't you also? But he had a different mindset, and I'm thankful that it did not work out for me at the University of Louisville, and it did work out for me, and it was the best decision that I ever made, going to the University of Kentucky.
Definitely. So if you could pick one, all right, if you could pick a couple of moments, what were your two most favorite moments in college as a player?
All right. Number 2 on the list is, let me just go and get this out of the way. Number 2 on my list is the catch against Alabama.
I was reminded of that from a close dear friend of mine that's a big Kentucky fan last night.
Yeah, that would be number 2 on my list. Number 1 on my list would be 1998 home Kentucky. I think at the time we were 5-4 or maybe 5-5. I could not remember, but we had 5 wins and we were playing Mississippi State. And it was a pretty close game, and it was coming down to the wires, fourth quarter. And we were running, I usually line up on the left, but at this moment I lined up on the right. And we ran 92 PCP. And what that meant was post, corner, post. And I was running the post, corner, and back to the post. And we had ran that play. We ran the post corner. We ran the post corner post. We had done a lot of that in that game. But this was crunch time. It was a critical situation. And I'm on the right. And Couch drops back, and boom, boom, boom. I run my route. And then all of a sudden, he's going backwards. And I'm on the right-hand side, and he's going backwards. And now he's going backwards, and he's fading to the right.
Okay.
And I'm on the right side, and we kind of make eye contact because he's looking for nobody but me. And then all of a sudden, I go post, corner, post. We make eye contact, and on the post, I just took off and jetted all the way to the other side of the field. Now, I'm going this way, and Couch is going this way and backwards. And he just leans back and heaves it up all the way to the other side of the field. And here comes my little 5'7", 5'8" self. And I go up and I jump and use my body and box out the DB, catch the ball in the end zone, touchdown. And that touchdown catapulted us into being bowl eligible for the first time in my college career, my first and only opportunity, all of us, to play in a bowl at the University of Kentucky. So that is my number 1 moment. And there's a video, I think, going around on social media that's played a few times where you can see how Mummy calling the play, and it's that exact play. But that's my favorite play at the University of Kentucky.
Right, that sounds like a good one to pick for sure. So I want to talk to you about your progression as a player. Now, I looked up your stats last night. Your breakout year really was your senior year. It
was my junior year.
You are right. Sorry. But your breakout year, you had what, 1,400 yards that year?
My senior year, I did. Yep.
Yeah. So you ended up having a total of just under 2,900 total receiving yards in your years there, 28 to 29 touchdown receptions. Talk us through your progressions. And what advice can you give to college athletes about being patient and trusting the process?
Well, when I originally went to UK, I mean, we were an option. We had Mo Williams, and we were running a single back option, double tight, 2 receivers, and Jeff Speedy was a quarterback, and then Billy Jack Haskin was the quarterback, and we didn't really throw the ball much, but I cracked a lot of safeties, and I was proud to crack a lot of safeties because, in my freshman year, I had an opportunity to be on the field with Mo Williams, and I blocked for him, and I worked extremely hard blocking for him, just like we all did against South Carolina and against the University of Cincinnati, when he just shattered records and shattered SEC records. And, those first couple years, they were, as for a receiver, they were tough. But at the same time, they were fun. They were rewarding. But, you want to get the ball a little bit more. I think my first 2 years, I had a total of 50 catches.
Yep.
I think my stats were almost identical in those first 2 years. I want to say 1 year I had, I think I had roughly 25 catches both years, or roughly 330, 40 yards both years, and 2 touchdowns. And then, how Mommy came in, and we just stopped running the football. And, my progression at Kentucky was, my sophomore year, after that season, and then when Hal Mummy came in, I almost flunked out of school. Like,
really,
I wasn't going to class. I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to be doing. I just was really having a difficult time just being a student. And, Hal Mummy came in, and him and Mike Leach and all those guys, and I was fourth string throughout that whole spring because Hal Mummy, he looked at me and said, "You're a good player, but we don't need you here because I don't think you're going to make it with your grade." So I was fourth string. So I had to work really hard. So, it worked out for me. The advice that I would give, and that I continue to give a lot of young men, is take advantage of your opportunities when you have them. Correct. If someone wants to give you a full scholarship to pay for your college so that you can play athletics, then by all means, go to school, graduate, because the only way they're going to take that scholarship away from you is unless you got to do things that are going to make them take it away. Not going to class, getting in trouble, just doing things that you don't have any business doing, not showing up on time. You got to go. And once you get into college, it becomes more of a business. It's a job for you. You still get an opportunity to have fun, but you got to go and you got to really, really work, because every single year, if you're an offensive tackle, every year they're trying to bring in another tackle to replace you. And that's at every single position. So if you think that you are working hard, you have to work harder. If you think you are giving your best effort, then you got to give a little more effort.
Right.
And it's really all about growing up and becoming a better individual. And that's what I tell young people all the time. Just go work, go have fun, but don't leave college without your college degree, and try to do everything you can and keep your nose clean. Like I told my own children, I said, all right, I told our son, Russ, and I told our daughter, I said, when you go to college, you have 2 things that you have to do. You're going to get your college degree, you're going to play ball, or you're going to run track, and you are not allowed to do anything to mess up our name. I am the only one that can do that.
Facts. That's true. As a parent, I mean, that's
correct.
That's true. So mentioning your son Russ, I want to know what it was like for your son to choose Louisville at first over Kentucky, because you know how our fans.
That's not what happened. That ain't what happened. So let's make sure we got the facts straight.
Because that's what a lot of people think.
Let's make sure we got all the facts straight. Russ was committed to the University of Kentucky.
That's why I'm asking. I'm glad. Okay.
He was committed to the University of Kentucky, and then he decided that is not where he wanted to go, and he took some time, and he chose to go to the University of Louisville over at least 3 or 4 different schools. And as a father, you never want to tell your son, you can't go there, you have to go here. I would never do that.
Right.
Russ, when he decided to go to University of Louisville, Todd Grantham was the defensive coordinator. I mean, Todd Grantham is a pretty solid defensive coordinator, but at the end of the day, it just it turned out that Grantham left, and there was some other situations and things happened, and he played his 4 years, went to Kansas State, and got coached the way that he was supposed to be coached, became first team All Big 12, led the conference in pass defended as a safety, was tied in the conference with 4 interceptions, and he got drafted. And now he's going to start for the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday. So I went around telling everybody when he was 14 years old that he was an NFL football player, but some people laughed at me. But he's an NFL football player. But he did not choose Louisville over Kentucky. He chose Kentucky first, and then something happened. It didn't work out. So he ended up at the University of Louisville. And Russ was raised the exact same way that I was raised by my grandfather, even though we moved around because I was coaching. Russ and Kaya, both of our kids, were born and they are Kentucky kids. So my kids were raised to go to Kentucky schools. And he ended up going to the University of Louisville. And so is my daughter. She runs track at the University of Louisville as well.
Awesome. Good deal. So as a parent, to watch your child have the same passion and drive for the sport that you grew up loving and playing, how does that make you feel to know that your son is at the highest level and going to be starting?
It's like you have no idea how much you bursting with pride and just happy. Yeah. I mean, because as a parent, you want your kids to be happy. You want them to be safe. You want them to be happy. You want them to pursue every dream out there and hopefully achieve them as well. But Russ has always wanted to play professional football, particularly in the National Football League. And he used to always say, I want to play in NFL like you did, but I want to play longer. And I think he's going to have that opportunity to play longer. But Russ has earned the right to be in the NFL. His journey was not all peaches and cream. He had a lot of adversity. He had a pretty significant knee injury at the University of Louisville. He almost lost his leg. And he faced all the adversity. He worked extremely hard, and he has earned his opportunity to be in the National Football League. And I'm just proud of him because he's living his best life and he's living out his dreams. And as a parent, what's better than that?
Nothing really. Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. So I want to touch on one talking in NFL and then get back to Kentucky. I have a few more things to discuss before we end this great conversation. Mm-hmm. As a parent and a former player of the NFL, what was your first thought when you seen what happened to D. Hamlin of the Buffalo Bills this past Monday?
I never seen anything like that.
Right.
I mean, the closest thing that I've seen to that was a basketball player way back named Hank Gathers. And everybody said, oh, it's the first time we saw this years ago, the college basketball player named Hank Gathers. But to see him, a routine play, was nothing significant, nothing serious, just a regular football play that you see every day, almost every single play, you see something like that. And then for him to get up and just fall down and go into cardiac arrest is, I really don't have any words, man. All I could do was pray for him, pray for his family, and hope that he had a speedy recovery because, I mean, never seen anything like that. So I am thankful that he is doing significantly better. I know the first thing that my wife and I did was we kind of got on the phone and talked to our son, just make sure he was okay, and he was fine. But just something I've never seen, and I don't have any words for it other than thoughts and prayers to him and his family and a speedy recovery. And hopefully, as long as I'm living, we never see anything like that ever again on the football field or any other athletic arena at that.
Definitely. No, the one thing, if there is a positive in a dark situation, it's showing, it's putting light on how much more the NFL truly needs to take care of their players.
Correct.
You know, I can't remember the guy's name. He's a big guy. I want to say his first name was Lance something, played defensive position for years, NFL, played for the Texans. I come across a random video of his on TikTok, and he said the NFL is really technically in trouble. And if you really look at it and you know it from both sides, NFL is in a lose-lose situation here. I mean, they really are. Like, at what point, when are you going to start protecting the players that put their life on the line every single day? Yeah, they get paid a lot of money, but they're risking their life every single play. Like,
I think it is. I mean, it's a risk that you take because it's a collision sport. I tell people all the time, you take that same risk when you play soccer and you hit the ball with your head on a consistent basis. You take that risk when you play basketball. You take that risk when you play baseball because you're taking a risk as he's throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastball and hitting you in the face or upside the head. I mean, but the NFL is more collision than any other sport. So we are constantly taking a risk when you're out there. So I do hope that as a former player, I do hope that the NFL, they have made a lot of strides over the years to do more for former players' health. And I hope they continue that and expand upon that and make it better for players that are currently and former players when it comes to just health, their health, mental and physical health after they're playing.
Yeah, you know. No, you're good. You're good, man. You're good. You know, the one thing I can't remember, it was a show in Cleveland, like a Cleveland sports show. They were really harping on the fact of, like, you have to be vested, just like in some unions and jobs, you have to be vested a certain amount of years before you can get lifetime insurance and stuff like that.
Yep.
I think what they were trying to say, I guess what I'm trying to iterate is, like, in certain situations like this, there needs to be clauses in collective bargaining agreements and contracts that if something like this happens, they are automatically allowed to have that insurance, because if you're not making money, how are you going to be able to afford it?
I agree with that 100%. And I think that's the direction that, you know, all of the former players are on the guys that are on TV, or all the media outlets. That's what everybody's talking about is, hey, how are we going to take this situation, learn from it, and then improve upon the way that the NFL takes care of their players, current and former. And I think that if they make those strides, and I think that they will, because I think that something like this is kind of going to force them to, because that's the thing about the NFL.
Right.
When something like this happens, everybody in the world knows about it, and you cannot hide it because it was Monday Night Football. So, you know, you got 30, 40, 50 million people watching Monday Night Football. And wow, we saw that. So NFL, I'm sure, will do a better job. I'm hoping and praying that they do.
All right. Two more things about Kentucky. What's your thoughts about the importance of Mark Stoops, not just for the last time, you know, for the last several years that he's been there as a coach, but his importance and influence with his coaches on the whole entire aspect of UK's football? How important to you as a former player has he been in letting people know that Kentucky's more than just basketball?
I think he's been huge, to be honest with you. I mean, I believe he's the second longest tenured coach behind Nick Saban in the SEC. I want to say that that's accurate.
You might be correct. Yeah.
I think that is accurate. I mean, he's been here for 10, 11 years now.
Yeah.
And all he's done is put the University of Kentucky in a position. You take a year like this. You take a year like last year where I want to say they won 10 games. And then you come back this year and you are in position. You got a new offensive coordinator, then your quarterback gets hurt. You got a young offensive line. You got a lot of stuff going on. The receivers are freshmen. You got a lot of stuff going on the offensive side of the ball. The defense still plays well. And it ends up not being a great year in the standard of what the Kentucky fans are looking for, or what they have now grown accustomed to under Mark Stoops, but they still went to a bowl. Yeah, they got whooped in the bowl. That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But
They still went.
They still went to another bowl. And I don't know how many years in a row now this is, but I want to say it's at least 6, 7, maybe 8 years in a row
Yeah,
that the University of Kentucky has gone
absolutely.
to a bowl game.
Yep.
And now it's really a matter of everything that Coach Stoops and his coaching staff have done over there to build the program. I'm really proud to be a former Wildcat, because the one thing that we always had throughout the years at the University of Kentucky, we always had a couple players here and a couple players there. Like, oh man, these guys are excellent, and they made plays. And every now and again, you get guys like myself or Tim Couch, who's the first pick of the draft. I mean, just some great players. And you can look into the NFL right now, and there are several NFL football players from the University of Kentucky. The thing is, Kentucky has never built a program and had the depth to have a year like this and then find a way to still make it to a bowl. And because of that, I think Mark Stoops is arguably one of the most important individuals in the state of Kentucky as the head football coach at the University of Kentucky, because he means that much to the state of Kentucky and the state of the University of Kentucky football program. He has turned it into a national power. They just need to get over the hump and get to the SEC championship. And they get to that, then it's going to be a whole totally different thing. So and they're right there knocking on the door.
No, they are. But one thing you got to think about, and I'm looking at this not only from a media perspective, but as an actual fan of UK athletics, that's got to, as exciting as that sounds and seems, like that's got to kind of be scary, because then if he achieves that at a school like Kentucky, because we know how Kentucky has been looked at over years for the sport of football, major schools are going to be coming knocking on the door once even though they already have, it's going to be amplified.
But my thing is,
go ahead. You're good.
Kentucky is a big time SEC school. And he makes, I don't know, I saw in communication, he makes $9 million a year at the University of Kentucky. Where else does he need to go?
That's a good way to look at it. That's true.
I mean,
that's true.
When you really think about it, in the SEC, he's built a more than solid is not even enough. He has built, along with his staff, an excellent football program at the University of Kentucky. Something that they said no one else could ever do. It could have been done with Bear Bryant, but they didn't want Bear Bryant or something. I don't know. But over the years, there have been a couple coaches at the University of Kentucky that have shown that you can win at the University of Kentucky. I mean, I don't know. There was a guy there that went to 7 bowl games in a row, 6 or 7 bowl games in a row, and then Joker Phillips took over. And then they went down, and then here comes Mark Stoops and struggle, boom, all bowl games in a row. Kentucky is now for football a household name. They just need to get over the hump and beat Georgia and Tennessee, play in the SEC championship, play for a national championship. And if they expand the college football playoffs, anything can happen. So
it definitely can.
I mean, I just don't see any reason at this point why he would go. But I don't sit and have conversations with Coach Stoops. I'm just saying, makes $9 million a year, and he has turned University of Kentucky into a national power, to the point where people are saying, "Is this a football school? Is it a basketball school?" When would you ever would have thought that people would have that argument at the University of Kentucky?
No, you're right. I think for me, again, not the media, but from the fan perspective, it's a good feeling to when a Kentucky fan brings up football or somebody mentions Kentucky in the aspect sport of football, that you can hold very solid conversations now. Whereas in the past, there were times where you couldn't. Now there's no doubt that we can hold strong conversations when it comes to the sport of football.
Absolutely.
That is just one of the many things that show what Mark Stoops and his staff have done to shine a positive light for the sport of football at U of K.
I agree, 100%. I don't have anything to add to that.
All right. One last thing about U of L, U of K, and then I'll ask you one more question. How important to you is the hiring of Jeff Brom at U of L to the revitalization of the rivalry between U of L and U of K? Because, I mean, just look at the track records. There really hasn't been a rivalry. It's been kind of dead in the water.
And I think Jeff Brom is going to turn it back into a rivalry. I don't know how long it's going to take him to get his program at Louisville in order to where they are. But one thing I know about Jeff Brom from a distance is it's not going to take him very long. He is an excellent football coach. And with him being a University of Louisville alum, being from the city of Louisville, and now going to Purdue and, you know, developing his craft even more, now coming home to build that program and try to turn it into a national power in the ACC. Hopefully he will turn that back into a huge rivalry.
Definitely.
The way it should be. And then I'll be saying, go Cats.
Right. Last question. When your time is gone, how do you want to be remembered as a person? How does Craig want to be remembered?
I don't know. I just want to be remembered as a man of faith that loved his family and try to do right by people that were around, and that hopefully I had a positive influence on people. That's really about it.
Coach, I want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon. You take care, Greg.
All right, Corey, I appreciate you, man. You have a great day.
You too, sir. Take care.
Thanks.